I can tell you that this is not a heavy technical oriented session, but no matter what your level is in your career, I'm sure that this is going to be something that you will find useful. Let's see how you can take back on it. So let me talk about one situation that I am currently facing. One of the challenging aspects of my personal life. Can we have a better? Yeah, just increase the volume. Is it better now?
Yeah, no.
So what happens is, as a wife, right, I send a lot of messages to my husband on WhatsApp, and I expect that he would be looking at them and respond.
All wives expect that.
Yeah, you understand the situation, right? One bunch of messages and there's no response. And I said, okay, fine. Maybe there would be, after 7, 10, 15 messages, there will be one message which comes back. Then I said, okay, fine. At least I need to know whether he's seen it or not. It doesn't matter if he responds or not. So I said, okay, there's this feature on WhatsApp which has 2 blue ticks, and I know if somebody has read it. So I sent him some things scribbling about whatever has happened on that particular day. These blue ticks. He's seen it.
So then, usually, as a husband, I can tell you our strategy is just to scroll through blue ticks come in any case without reading also.
So that's the problem. That's the problem that happened to me. Because I thought he's seeing it, and he's seen it. He forgot to lock his phone. He kept it there, and he's busy on the computer. It's still not gone into sleep mode. I sent a last message saying that okay, he's seeing it. So I sent a message saying that please buy her on your way back home. Blue tick. He's not seen it. He comes home, no curd. Okay. So this is a problem where we are looking at. I think that he knows what I'm expecting. He doesn't know whether I know that he knows. All this confusing thing comes into picture, right? So that's when I thought that this self-analysis tool that I'm going to talk about can probably help in our day-to-day context. I don't think it's going to solve the husband and wife problem or the blue tick problem or getting a response from them. That's probably not going to change. But that's it. So many of you, when you saw this tool, you would have thought, what is this Johari? Is it Johari? But anyway, let's look at a little bit of thing. But before that, as an architect, right, how has our journey been? We've done a lot of technical work, a lot of people-based work, right? So can we say that we are a team leader? Yes, no, little bit, yes, maybe here and there we have to manage a little bit of people issues, but we're not really people managers or leaders in that sense, right? But are we individual contributors? Not only individual contributors, because we do a lot of things apart from the technical aspects.
We want to be IC, but nobody is.
But our role is such. See, our role is such that we have to look at and manage a lot of different things. What are some of the things that we do? We look at strategy for the organization. Okay, this is a bank. They have a bunch of legacy tools. The objective is to get more customers. How do we do that? Strategy, mobile strategy. Something else, AI strategy. All those things are what we think about. We are given, so let's say you are a pre-sales architect, you are interacting with the customer, they have a certain requirement, you agree to a certain time frame within which you do, and for that you have to do a realistic estimate of that. Right? This is not like a salesperson doing an estimate because you are thinking about so many other aspects. And then you come back to your development team and ensure that those time frames are met from a realistic perspective. So there's a time management element coming into picture. We're given a certain budget, which is obviously always less than what we need. We manage that. We manage stakeholders, right? No, it's not just a manager kind of a people responsibility that we have. We have a lot of things to do with managing the expectations of executives. Sometimes different kinds of stakeholders. Somebody is affected positively, somebody is affected negatively. How do we manage that our solution brings the best for multiple kinds of people? So that's the people element. And of course, we are giving us a direction to what our product is looking at or what the solution that we are working on. We're managing all those things. And hence it becomes very important to look at things not just from a technical point of view, but from a holistic point of view. ourselves and the people that we're interacting with. So, if you look at this slide, I'm sure every one of us have faced at least one of these elements in their life, if not more, right? We think about we have a solution that we're developing, we think there's something that we've assumed about that solution, this would work in this particular way. Never works, right? Very, very rarely do we get the opportunity to start something from scratch. It's always fix somebody else's problem. And then something, you've planned something, you've decided something, it seems to go smoothly. Suddenly the executives have a new thought process and they say, oh, this is our decision, what needs to be done to get it fixed. Of course, there are so many feedback, right? When do we get feedback? When we are working on something, we're trying to develop something, we try to ask for feedback, but it doesn't come. We end up reaching a very advanced stage and they say, oh, this is not what we were looking for. All of these challenges we face. So, let's come back to the point of what is this Johari, right? So, these were two psychologists, and as you might have observed now, the word Johari comes from their names. Joseph and Harry became Johari. Now,
it was an Indian guy.
So, what happened was in 1955, there were two psychologists working in the University of California, and they were trying to understand the interpersonal relationship between people, and they felt that somewhere there was a gap because of the fact that one person understands another person in a particular way. Could be because they themselves do not understand themselves the way they are perceived by somebody else. So they dug deeper into this whole philosophy, and then they identified a way in which these interpersonal relationships can start becoming a little better by understanding the other person and yourself a lot more better. Right? So, see, if you look at what this Johari window is, it's a matrix. Okay? So if you look at the first quadrant, Q1, top left, something that is known to yourself about you and something that is known to everybody about you. So you have a common understanding. What you think and what others think about you is the same. Now this one, it's known to you, something known to you, but not known to others. There is something that you are not disclosing to us. Obviously, there are things like that. Q3, that's the dangerous place, right? You don't know something about yourself, what others know about you. And the fourth quadrant is where everything is unknown. You also don't know something about yourself, others also don't know. Anybody who's come in a group where maybe friends have come together or from the same company who've come together? Okay. So there might be something that you gave as an introduction at the beginning, which now everybody knows. But then, because he knows you a little better, there might be something that you know about him, which you have observed. Could you talk a little bit? See what happens when we have a manager or a boss in the room, we all go quiet because there's something that the rest of us know about the right? But what we are aiming to do, I'll come to that a little bit later. But then one important element that I want to bring in. See, before we go into how this is all connected to architecture, let's look at what are the typical use cases in general, right? So this is it's considered an HR tool in some ways, and I will give you some resources at the end so that you can go look this up. It's something useful definitely. So as I said at the beginning, it's used for self-awareness, right? What can we use this for from a personal interaction point of view? It's for getting more feedback or providing more feedback to somebody, and the significance of that will come to that. Of course, in team building activities, I think if you have any team building activity planned, maybe at the end of this talk you might find some inspiration where you want to. See, because why? When you're working with a group of people, unless you know certain things about them, it becomes very difficult to have that kind of a bond and work together. So this can help you in those. That's where it's typically used. Of course, for leadership development, this is something that is heavily emphasized for coaching, mentoring, all of these areas. Okay, this is something that we all relate to, right? So when I say that I'm an architect, what do my friends think? Oh, architect getting a lot of high salary and enjoying a very fancy lifestyle. What do parents think? Oh, always on the call, there's some concept or something. Society thinks, oh, you're building something. Developers think, we just put in some Lego blocks. But what do I think? I think I'm building a nice ecosystem, everything comes together, my systems, my products, my technology, everything comes together, it's very good. But actually, boxes, arrows, what else do we do, right? So now, as I was saying, as an architect we do a lot of things apart from tech. So that makes it important for us to look at this from two different lenses. One as the individual or the architect, and the second is your architecture itself, which is your system. So can you apply this concept to understand or develop yourself better as an individual who is strategizing and giving direction to the organization? And can you help in your system itself being better? So what we're going to do is, I'm going to go through each of those four quadrants that I explained in the beginning, and we look at it from these two lenses. So the one on the left is you as an individual, an architect. Okay. What do we do? What is visible to everybody? The balance that you bring between the business needs, the technology, the people, the stakeholders involved, the team involved, the developers, engineers, everything. How do you bring that balance? Okay. So what you know about yourself and how do you project that is what is going to be vital. What do we know about the way you handle things? What do people think about when they look at a conflicting situation? How is this individual going to handle this situation? So how do you build that part? When there is a decision making that is happening, what are the considerations that you take as a technical person when you make those decisions in your project or your product development aspect? How do you manage expectations from all of these different people across the organization? And what is your typical way of response? And how is it perceived by others? So keep this in mind. Now when it comes to your architecture or your system itself, you need to understand, see what information we already have about it, what is known about it, what are the areas which we know can potentially break. Okay? What is the core functionality of this solution itself? Is it, are we looking at speed as an element? Are we looking at cost as the primary? Are we looking at security? Are we looking at scaling it to a larger extent? What is the core component that is known about that system? When you have multiple products interacting or multiple platforms interacting, what are those gaps and boundaries? Are they all well defined, well documented, and is it all well aware?
So basically what my experience in my observation, basic challenges with technology changes. The rate of technology is changing like a very rapidly. Every 6 months you have to learn something. It's like people you have to be, stay with a new life. You can understand. When you have a new life, life is something more you want to understand first and you have to move with that. So technology is kind of changes right now. It's like every 6 months or every 3 months there is a new technology. There are new changes in the already you are another technology. So how do you capitalize? How do you actually retain that and also pass forward, move forward with the new things which is coming out in the market?
Yeah, I will touch upon that. So that would, let's go through the flow and then it would answer your question. So this part is okay for everybody. So if we go to the second quadrant, which is known to self, not known to others, what does that mean? We have a certain context about the system, but we're not disclosing all of that element to everybody in the team. Maybe the developers are not aware of certain context. It's why do we do that? Because we assume everybody will know about it. That is situation changes a little bit when you assume or you are not sharing all of the context and things like that. What was the logical reasoning or the factors that you put into play when you took a certain decision to follow a certain path? Is that...
sorry, just a quick. Not fully disclosing context also means what you said is right. That I am not sure that I am assuming that everybody knows this. And it's quite possible that even I do not know that they don't.
Exactly. That's the point.
Right. So everybody, okay, this is the way the system runs, you should know. Then you don't know the decisions that have been taken in the past. Possibly I also don't know.
Correct. So we'll address that.
But a lot of times speed has taken a thrill at this point where you are running at such a fast pace that even if what you know today will not be relevant in the next few months.
Absolutely.
Giving context, does it really make sense is what I wondered, especially in AI.
See, especially in the AI era, you should be able to define what is the logical reasoning behind it. Because let's say there's an automated process that's creating and generating a product. How are you even sure that it is really doing what it's expected to do? So many of the times, when you are interacting with a chat bot as a customer service option, it is not answering the questions that we are asking. So they think that they have solved a problem where they have built a chat solution which can answer people's questions 24/7. But it's not answering the question that the user is asking, so they have not solved that. So if you don't have that kind of context, are you really solving the problem? That's the question, right? So let's see. This is an interesting point that I wanted to bring about. Does that create a sense of dependency on us as architects when there is a lot of things that we probably do not explain or document or something, right? It's good in a way because considering things that are happening, you will secure certain things. But from the idealistic point of view, is it something that we really need to have? That's something that needs to be thought of. Now, when you look at the system side of things, what happens? Some existing documentation is there, not fully there. Some things were implemented, but nobody knows how did this come. They've always... No, let's say you came to the system in between, right? So how was this decision taken? Let's say you're working with a legacy system and you don't even know, who did this, why was this decision taken, where is the document, right?
You can use ADRs for that, architecture decision reports.
If it was written ever.
They follow and someone else, they take them very seriously.
Some alternative. That's what we're trying to do now. But if you look at certain legacy systems, this is not at all available. And then you have to do a digital transformation about it. See, I have had a situation where there was a platform which was, so when people go to the bank's branch, this system was what the branch people were using. And the people who were coming in as customers were very orthodox Britishers who valued their titles, right? So I'm Lord so and so and something, sir and all that. So when this new system, so they were doing a digital transformation. Nobody knew why this has been done and everything. They have implemented that, and there is no title. They've just thought about some other aspects of it, and this is not there. And then when somebody was trying to validate it, they said, oh, this feature is not there. Why was it there in the first place? No, this is not important. The customer was doing it. It's not important. Why is it not? Then there were people to a discussion about why this was important. Because the people who are coming in, we want them to feel valued because they value these titles. And if that is not there, the fundamental aspect of the system that we're building is lost, right? So how do you ensure that these things are all present in something? That is another thought process that I want to take. See, here I'm not really trying to solve anything, but I would rather want to emphasize that you all start thinking about these elements. So that makes us better architects when we are in the situation with our systems and as people who are making a difference, hopefully. Okay. Now this is, as I said, the danger spot where others know something about you. What happens here? People are trying to give you certain hints about, maybe this is some element that you need to look at. Can you explain this better now? But then, as you grow in the ladder, the feedback that comes to you starts reducing, and then you reach that blind spot where you don't know something that others know about you. Right? You think that you are clear, but maybe you're not. But you don't know about that. Right? And sometimes our little bit of an ego comes into the picture. We think, oh, I know the best solution, or I'm finding the best solution. But rather than that, are you someone who knows the best solution, or are you someone who tries to find the best solution? That there's a little bit of a thinking that I want you to do with those words. Put it in the back of your head and chew on it. So when it comes to the system, what are the things? We have the technical context, but maybe the domain or the business element is not something that is very obvious to us. We may have, as architects would have worked on multiple domains. We come to a new domain, there would be some gap there. So understanding that, or on the basis of our experience we do certain things, but maybe that's not exactly the right solution at that point in time. Let's say there are some business rules that we are not aware of, but we need to ensure that they are there. So those are all the blind spots and the danger zones that we are looking at. What about certain corner cases, right? So we have thought about all the test cases and everything, but there's still one corner case which you hit when it goes into production first day. All those things are finally the unknown thing, right? So this is the area which we need to reduce, right? The unknowns. How do we do that? From our self-development perspective, can we look at, or as an architect, can we look at having some proofs of concept to see whether this particular area works or not? Does this conceptually seem, so you try out something, instead of going all out and implementing, can you try out some bits and pieces and see if that works? Can you have a mechanism in which you have a template-based proof of concept build? This is just thought process that you can then tweak a little bit and then get it to work for all the use cases that you are looking at, something like that. But also, to answer your question, you have to prepare yourself for the worst possible situation and see how can you still work around it, right? Because unknowns are unknowns. What can we do about it other than being prepared? And how do we be prepared? That's the area that we are looking at developing ourselves. So what happens in the technology aspect? So when cloud wasn't there, we didn't know how was it going to turn out. But if we had designed our systems with a little bit of intuitive, futuristic thought process, maybe it would have been slightly easier to do that adaptation. Now in the last 3-4 years, we have been looking at AI, bringing AI into the picture. Have we been designing things, keeping in mind the adaptability? Do we know what's going to happen in 3 months from now? Are our systems prepared for that kind of a rapid change? So keeping that, so we have to not just think about what is on the spot in the moment, but rather as architects start thinking about how can you make your system adapt faster and how can you make those, bring those newer elements into the picture without losing time, money, effort, everything. Any questions to this point? Does it resonate? Yes.
In Q3, if you can relate with the IT system, most of the time, like the leadership or the management or your manager won't give you enough guidelines or resources to help you grow in your career learning process. So, is there any kind of a remedy there?
So, from a personal, from an architecture?
Yeah, from the work as a manager, how you can help your team members to help them grow.
Okay. I will use this slide to explain that. So basically what we understood is that the first quadrant, which was the open area, the bigger that is, the better it is for us. Because what we know about ourselves and what others know about us, or what we know about the system and what is known about the system in general or documented about the system is the biggest, is on the same page. if that is managed, so we are in a good space. So basically we have to narrow down all the other 3 windows. And how are we going to do that? When we talk about this context part which we were hiding, or we didn't give out a lot of information, how do we do that from an individual perspective is by transparency, honesty, right? When it comes to systems, documenting as much as we can. Okay, let's not think about the dependency, having the dependency on us, that okay, everybody should come and ask me, but rather think about having all the information of that system well documented, and that's what elevates you as an architect, right? So, if everything, write your name on the document, put your watermark there, and somebody seeing it, they'll know that this has been documented there. So that way you can still have your dependency, but try to reduce the scale. How do you overcome the blind spot? That's where the feedback concept comes into the picture. So when it comes to a system getting constant feedback, so if anybody has used the TOGAF framework, so in the center of the TOGAF, you have the stakeholder, right? Every stage you are constantly asking the stakeholder. So do not wait for the end to get feedback, even if it means you seem like a pest. Try to get regular feedback about the tool and system. When it comes to individuals, try to get feedback both from your 360-degree feedback. Try to take things positive. Not necessarily that we should always get the right kind of feedback, but try to take or be open to it. So when you are receptive to feedback, the possibility of getting feedback is more. So try to convey that element of yourself, that you are a transparent person who's also looking to develop yourself with the feedback. And also similarly try to have a planned approach to getting superior feedback. So that helps you grow in your ladder as well. And I know it's difficult times and nobody has the time. It's no longer those open door policies. Very bureaucratic. Yes.
So we once had a manager who used to conduct this exercise that after every few months he would send out a feedback form to some people to collect responses like what are the 3 worst things that you dislike about me. And over a period of time he understood that the pattern emerged that these forms were only going to those people who we wanted to remove from the team.
Where the more dislikes are.
See, the reason why I'm trying to bring these kind of topics to these forums is that we are, the next generation of leaders, right? So just like the people who were born like very recently have already started working now. I mean, nieces and nephews who were like tiny kids have started working. So now we are of those, at the stage of our career where we could be potential leaders. So can we take some things back from this to improve, bring back the good old work environment, right?
What can we do better?
What can we do better? What thought process we are looking at to do things better? See, because when you ask for feedback and the feedback is not received properly, then you don't want to give feedback, right? Or if somebody gets angry when you give a negative feedback, then you stop giving feedback. So if you are that person who gets angry when they give you negative feedback, you're not going to, so then your blind spot keeps increasing. So that reception should also be there. And how do you then try to get constraints around the system? Try to talk to, so let's say you're working on a legacy system, try to talk to all the business stakeholders to understand these subtle things. They may not be technical people, but you will get things like what is the context behind this, what do the branch people expect. I am just talking about a bank example. What do the people in the branch face on a day-to-day basis when there are customers coming in as opposed to a digital customer? Let's say it's a broker-based system, what are they looking at? What are the pain points? So try to understand the bigger context, because that's our role as an architect as well. It's not just fitting 2-3 systems together, writing some APIs. That's not our job. We are looking at something much beyond that, and that's where this understanding needs to be, or what are the potential corner cases. Let's say we have 2 different systems on 2 different platforms because we acquired one organization or another bank and their platform has also come to us. What are the constraints? When we are integrating this, what could potentially break? Start thinking on those lines as well, right? So if someone wants to go back and look up this Johari window concept, apparently there are 56 adjectives that have been described. So you can look it up, you can download those 56 adjectives. And what you do is, when it comes to personal development at least, everybody or your peers who are rating each other, you look at which of the adjectives fall into which. So do everybody know me as this thing? Put it in that box. What you think, you fill that, and then look at somebody else what they filled about you, and then you compare. You will know where is your blind spot and what needs to improve. Just try that out if it helps.
I have one question with respect to team bonding. So there was a time when really team bonding really mattered a lot, but in this right, when people have become very so team bonding works well when your manager is watching you, and it becomes the actual when your manager is out of state, right? So
yeah, finish it.
So my question is, one of my hiring intern, he asked me, sir, why do you really bother about team bonding? None of us really are family members, and none of you really matter. And he asked me very direct questions that the moment something happens at my home when I'm in problem, will you ever come and help me? I said, no, I will never be able to. Right? So his point is very simple, that team bonding and all are a nonsense which you guys have created, we as a culture. Right? You are here to do the work and get the job done and leave. So do you feel that team bonding still makes sense with Gen Z?
See, it's a very complicated situation, right? It's very complicated.
But they are not wrong. Are they wrong?
They are not wrong.
They are not.
Because even in our generation, who really cares? You on the system.
Because we are coming from a traditional hierarchy where we have a respect for a boss and all, and we are more of a survival mode. We are getting a home.
This is not that.
See, but what do we need to focus on? Considering, so that's where we as experienced people who've seen all these things come into how to use our thought process here. So we need to look at what is going to make sense for us. Okay. So especially the decision making, how do people do that? So you don't need to know what is happening in their house. They are also not interested in what's happening in your house. As a person, how are you responding to certain situations? What is the strength of this individual? You have five interns in your team who can do the database work properly, who can do something else. So that at least you need to understand so that you're able to manage your.
But the moment I say bonding, right, they all grill me very heavy. That is what bonding are you talking about? So I realize that the whatever we have learned in the past is of no use.
So that's why we have to reinvent the terminology and bring some.
I think it's how you define bonding, right? That's what I'm saying, right? If you are being more approachable, when there is some help. It's also, I can say, I'm very busy with my work.
Correct.
Whereas, I can be helpful to
Approachable.
other colleagues. And also situations like, we said, we don't involve in the other family matters. But at the same time, somebody felt ill, one of your team members. So the other team member can pitch in for some time, to manage the situation.
So I'll tell you one scenario where one of my interns got ill. Okay, and I assume that I will not call him, but what really happened is I had a lot of dependency on him on the evening. Okay, I ended up calling him. He replied me on the evening very nicely, answered and all. He gave me a solution. But the next day, not next day, when he became well, he turned up to me, sir, you really did not do well on calling me on this. Right, so that's what I realized, that if it was me on his position, I would have not retaliated that way. But he
was honest enough to give you that.
Exactly. But as a human, I did not like it. But the point is, was he wrong?
See, that's where the acceptance
I
of
think the
feedback.
question actually is about this. I remember there were times when I was working one day late in the office and I was supposed to go to Chennai. Because my brother was coming and he was planned. But my boss said, you have to finish this off. I ended up missing my train. I still remember that, but I never had the guts to go and tell him that boss, you did the wrong thing.
But they have, and they are not wrong.
It also depends on what you are doing. It all depends on the sort of work that you are asking him to do. If it is a doctor, for example,
No, I ended
that
up taking a
situation.
30-minute call, to be precise. 30-minute time I ended up.
We can avoid the jargon of bonding and all. Let's create a healthy working atmosphere.
So,
So
see,
that they feel comfortable.
So,
Big problem, that's a big problem happening. They're actually segmenting. You are a Gen Z, you are a fitness person. I think it is
Labeling people.
so yeah, it is not like, you have a mindset. one thing is no, so there is no person is right or no person is wrong. But the thing is that you have to also get coaches. I don't have to bring that to some link because be attached to something like something run and then something. So we not get emotion attached to something. We have to do certain things which are correct on that perspective. Right perspective, right or wrong. Because there is nothing called absolute. Right? So we are not getting the right system always. But we need to always try to redirect.
See, what I intend with this particular thought that I want to put into your head is that we are always thinking, okay, the situation has become bad, this is not good, our superiors are not great, our subordinates are not great, what are we doing here? And we think that we can't change anything.
So this question is, I think is right or wrong is, the question is wrong in itself. The doctor is doing kind of a operation there, whether he or she do not know which operation is doing there, the right question of who is going to answer the question. The doctor is asking the same question where is it doing the different operation and he doesn't know what kind of operation is doing, so there is a wrong in there. Because a doctor professional itself. And we have to ask ourselves. So the recent one incident happens, so I've been working with agency.
Let's not label it.
Because see, I've been working with him from past, just last 1 month after. So I've been working for a design board of every time he joins and he tells the customer that, so I'll get back to you again. He was telling that 3 times and 4 times. The customer will stop on that same call. How many times you would tell me the same answer? I will get back to you. And it is an actually architect call. We have to be designed in the same call and we have to be answered in the same call.
Why do you have an intern in an architect?
I cannot ask the question to my management. That's the management call.
You seem to have opened up Pandora's box here.
So another question that I have, right, which I also have seen, right, one is we try to level up things in a box, right? We have a tendency of, even I'm a product manager, I'm working on the platform side of things, so always there are n number of frameworks. But behind a point, right, when we start talking about like the best sales is not selling at all, it's just conversations, and the best team bondings are not talking about team bondings at all, it's just going them, throwing a problem at them and just hanging out together. So do you think any frameworks actually help in that sense?
So I think trying to show you a set of questions that I have thought of, which has helped me at least. So maybe you can adapt it to what works for you and like. See, the idea is that there is no one way of doing this. So
Understand, but the more I try to, because all of the frameworks will have an inclination in one side or the other. So you can take multiple frameworks as an example, but end of the day, right, the moment you try to box it and try to figure out, okay, let's do this, let's have a, I never asked for a feedback like that in my entire, right, whenever I was managing people. It was more like, hey, what do you feel about it? And that I think, I don't even want to tag. I don't think Gen Zs, I work with a lot of Gen Zs as well, not directly reporting to me, but still like, if you ask for a feedback, generally the feedbacks are biased, that's what I've seen. And mostly frameworks in the personal relationships has not worked really that well. So what is your feedback?
see, for me, I may not be the right person to give you an in-depth answer on the personal aspect of it, because that would need a little bit of a psychology background and how to think on those lines and all that. But the way I have used this in my...
this is probably a psychological framework.
It is. So the analysis of the psychological part is probably not the right thing that I can convey to you, but what I have been using this is to understand myself. But as I was talking about that example where people who are coming to the branch are looking at their titles, that was something that was never documented anywhere at all. Nobody even knew that feature. Okay, so this was something that I figured out by talking to people across the brands that were there in the organization, across a lot of business units, people who work in the everybody thinks, okay, why should an architect go and talk to somebody in the branch?
This is a slightly different problem. That is a client discovery problem that you're talking about. This framework, are you talking in the sense of client discovery or understanding the client as a stakeholder, or is it?
No, that feature. Okay. I'm just talking about that particular feature. But when they did the digital transformation, that particular feature was not even existing and had not been factored in because they didn't even know that such a thing was there. And I managed to document that in my architecture. And then when the team was in a position to pick it up, this got into the backlog, and now they had a context to why this isn't there. So think about the situation. Let's say nobody had investigated this feature was not solved there, and a 80-year-old lord walks into the branch, and this branch officer is sitting with a fancy cloud-based AI.
That is not a system architect problem by itself. That is more of a
So that's where
product discovery problem.
see, that's where I'm trying to say that the lines are blurred a little bit, because if you think that okay, this is not my headache, that's a developer thought process, right?
I would say in this particular case, you are doing a legacy system. We're talking about systems that were built 40 years ago. 40 years ago, even Britain had a very different culture than us today.
Correct.
Which means that you actually had everybody say Mr., Sir, Lord and all, and that basically fed into the way the system was designed. And it was such an obvious thing to do that nobody realized that it needs to be documented. Fast forward 40 years, the royalty is falling down, you've got all these stuff, the Britishers don't even drop the royalty anymore. So the young guy who's there, he says, what the hell is the Lord Shot and all that? Screw it up, right?
Correct.
And that's where the system design is aata nahi. And that was where you have the right thing. The 80-year-old comes in and this guy says, oh, XYZ. This guy says offended. How the hell are you going to talk to me like this? And the entire business goes out of the movie, right? That's the point of talking.
See, what happens is, as an architect, I have to think about two things. I have to think about, okay, this is, I need to increase my business, which is, I need to have mobile. Nobody is going to, have I walked into a branch? I don't remember when was the last time. So I'm not even very young. No, I'm not even that young. But I myself, I don't remember when was the last time I went into a bank. So what would I want? Something that I can do on my mobile or on the laptop or something. But my entire revenue is coming from these old lords and knights.
Agree.
So how do I maintain it? So that is where that element comes into picture, where you're trying to widen the open area and try to, that's the point that I'm trying to make.
Right.
I don't have a single answer to say that.
But again, that comes back to another problem, right? If you start expanding your area, so for example, here when you're talking about this thing, one is you're talking about the discovery problem. So that is a pure play discovery problem. So if you don't isolate that problem, like say like this is like typically what we do is if you're designing any, like if you think it in terms of system architecture, you would want to have like your black box of your problem. So you would want to isolate your problem. So discovery is a different problem and this is a different problem. At some point you have to give certain things in order. So there is a balance that you need to have. So when you're saying blind spot, like what is the thing that you're trying to establish, right? Is it right, I use this framework to make sure like these are the things that I should figure it out, I should get a feedback, or is it just there should be a feedback to like what is the point?
See, if you don't know why you are doing something, how are you going to address that problem by your solution in the first place? So that understanding that why, there might be a logical reasoning behind why we are. So Simon Sinek keeps showing that.
So unknowns are always going to be there.
Yes. How do you reduce that? By trying to figure out what can we think of for the future and how can we reduce the uncertainty here by planning for the future. We don't even know what's going to happen in the next minute. Correct. But from a system perspective or from an individual perspective or a leader's perspective, are we able to reduce this by trying to reduce the unknowns or by preparing for the unknowns?
I actually see the other problem more. Over-engineering is a bigger problem than under-engineering.
Yeah, no, it's not about over-engineering it, but
when you're trying to discover a problem, that the probability of that problem is very less to come in most cases.
yeah, I mean, it's not that you build all possible things into the system. It's just that you start thinking about it a little differently. Because when cloud came into picture, hardly fast enough to move from legacy to cloud, from databases to cloud, that took a lot of effort. When it comes to AI, again, it's another big challenge. So now the pace that things are going to change is much, much, much faster. How prepared are we from a leadership perspective as well as from a system perspective to manage these. That's the point.
Yeah, if you have further questions, maybe we can push it forward, I guess, maybe later. But if you have more slides, you can.
Yeah. This is what I wanted to leave you all with. So if you've forgotten everything else, just try to keep this in your mind and try to ask yourself these questions both from an individual perspective as well as from a system perspective. Try to write these on a piece of paper traditionally. It helps. And then use these actions to kind of widen your open area, reduce the blind spots, and be prepared for actions. I think you'll have the slide as well. So.
What might break in real use? How do we know? We don't know that is right. That's a tough one to answer.
At least you thought of it. At least you thought of it. You're not going completely there.
That's the problem that you pointed out also the whole idea that you're plumbing. We don't really bother too much about the underlying plumbing when we look at the fancy top level transformer here. That big nice meme that is now coming in everywhere, that CD comic, which says that okay, the entire infrastructure of the world is lying on this small Strait of Hormuz.
Correct.
And that is actually becoming a real thing because we don't get. It seems there is a copper shortage, there is a helium shortage, there is a fertilizer shortage, all because of that one little. So
Maybe we really can't do much about it, but
we can't. I'm just saying that that's the way the world has evolved. I'm just pointing that out.
correct.
So there's one piece like the whole point was SSL is dependent upon one person to open SSL, one level. That guy somehow gets under the God forbid, but under the bus the next day.
So if you have ensured that the documentation was there, then maybe somebody can at least give it an attempt to try to start the preparation there.
Sometimes the things are very difficult. I think it takes time and context. All clear people, how you are going to address that? You have to face it, you have to navigate.
No, I'm not saying that you can really face it. I'm just trying to say that people to understand that there are certain points that are choke points that we need to be cognizant of. Possibly other than Trump, everybody else in the world knew.
Even he knows, he has that.
You have to be very confident. Later? I just want to conclude by giving you these three things where we are acing architecture and leadership by accepting the uncertainty, conquering the fear, and embracing honesty. Please. Yes.
So, morally, if we put a velocity purpose, like so when we are building the teams and having the interview and creating a teams, now in the starting we have the zero velocity and situation is normal and everything was doing well. And the stress going to be get increased and velocity get increased and the people are now have a different perception for each others. So how this model going to be?
So the more you understand what are the strong points of an individual, where are the areas that they can develop, and having that right kind of a conversation, it's basically in your specific case, it's about understanding individuals and the individuals understanding you as their leader. So how do you be that approachable, transparent kind of leader, as well as adapt to what your team is looking at while not compromising on the business values?
So as per the different velocity, it's going to be have the different perception for everyone's.
Correct.
It's going to be changed. It's not going to be constant. So feedback is also going to be impact.
So how honest are you about that feedback, or how do you act upon that feedback? Let's say somebody gives you a feedback. Like his junior said that you shouldn't have called me when I'm sick. If he acts on that feedback and then sees what can he do so that things are already documented, so that he doesn't have to disturb a sick person to get that answer, or if he knows the others in the team who are also aware of some of these things, or you have technical sessions where some things are common and everybody knows about what is there, where are the repositories and everything. then he has acted on that feedback. But let's say he just gets irritated with that person and he keeps going and going, then they're going to stop answering. They're not like our generation where you will say, okay, let me still.
No, on that note, my wife gave me good feedback. She said, you are a sick, not him. Fine, you are a sick person, you ended up calling him despite the fact knowing that he's sick, right? So that was a good feedback for me.
The question was, how important was it to buy?
It was important, sir, because my customer call was there on the same night, so it was
Actually, in
important.
other words, choosing an AI terminology, the context grounding is always done by wives.
That's the context.
Does that answer?
You call me, yes. He called me, yes.
It concludes me that we should not focus on the feedback, we should improve and figure out that velocity point. So we are reduce the velocity so that if you need a better feedback.
See, for example, let's say that also, if we are talking about velocity, it's the ability of focused concentration possible by me in a day. I can only focus 1 hour. What can I do about it? Even if you're telling me you're only focusing 1 hour, what can I do about it? Maybe I can't do anything because I have a deficiency or an issue with that. So then can you balance out that 1 hour focus which you're giving me, you are defining my task clearly so that within that 1 hour I can deliver what you're expecting from me, that you might expect an 8 hour of focus or something like that. So how do you adapt yourself as a leader? That is what you have to think about.
Yeah, that's correct. That's better to plan, and we should have the mutual understanding how we are performing, the velocity to get increased.
I think you should take the team out more.
So leave it to the audience choice to decide which were the 4 top questions and then I can give those topics to those.
If there are more questions, we still have, I think, 2 minutes left.
Which do you think was the best question?
How much chocolate do you want?
And I think we should give it to Ravi also because he was just emotional. Oh, he already got 2.
Sorry. Any other? Yeah, your question, sir.
Chocolates are over.
You can ask offline chocolates are over.
Okay, I hope this was useful and not too stressful.
Thanks for the session, and it was really interactive, and also we loved it. It was fun also, right? Yeah, please. We have a small token of appreciation from our side.